Welcome to Accelerated Engineering. My name is John, and today I'm going to do a little function showcase on a new function that I wrote called what I'm calling combine a show. And the purpose of this function is to show all of the possible combinations with repeats for a given number and sort of pull values. Excel has a built-in function called combine a that tells how many combinations of a particular, based on particular inputs there are, but it doesn't have a way to show them. Lots of people want to see them shown, so I wrote a function that does that. Just to color this workspace so that we can see what's going on, I've got a few values here that are just descriptive text. I'm going to highlight them in blue. The output that I'm interested in is over here. I color that in orange, and then my inputs I'll make in green. So I've got one input matrix that just shows what values we intend to use. For example, if I change this out for a number 1, then all of my arrays change to have 1s and Bs and Cs. If I change n, then I get more values. And the way to think about this is n is like the number of things from which I can select, and r is the number of times that I make that selection. So if you imagine I had 4 letters in a hat, A, B, C, and D, r represents R represents how many letters I draw out of that hat. But because this allows repeats, it's also like I would draw a letter and then put it back, scramble them around, draw another letter. And this shows all of the combinations of letters that I could draw. An important note is that combinations don't care about order, which means that, for example, AAAB is the same combination as BAAA, ABAAA, or any other combination where there are 3 A's and 1 B. So this has to sort out all of those. The yellow values here are just my error checking. I have the combine A function, which just checks to see if I have 4 things and I pick 4, how many combinations are there with repeats. That's a built-in Excel function. And then I'm just counting my outputs in another place and counting my outputs here. Actually, what I should be counting is counting the outputs in the A column. There we go. Just to make sure that I am actually getting the right number of things. I had an issue for a while where I wasn't getting the correct number of things, but I fixed it because well, that helped. So this function is a little bit chunky. There's a few steps to it. So I've broken them out across columns, and I'll talk about what each individual component of this function does. The first part is the value array. So the purpose of the value array in here is just to generate an array of all of the possible permutations that these numbers can, or that these values can take. So I did say permutations, and it means permutations with repeats. It's every possible arrangement of 4 values, and that goes on for quite a ways. There's several of those. Now, that's not what I want. What I want is all of the different combinations. So to determine which combinations are usable, I've written a small function that scores each row. You'll see in the eventual lambda function, it's this score array line. And what score array does is it assigns or calculates a value based on each of the values in this row. And you'll see here and here, where I've scored 19 for both of these rows. It's 3 zeros and a 1. And this is also 3 zeros and a 1. And in fact, anywhere that I get 3 zeros and a 1, it's going to have a score of 19. That's a duplicate value. I don't want to see that. Here's another one, 259. is the score for 3 zeros and 1 2. We'll see that this function requires taking the square of the input n and then raising it to the power of whatever is in here. And the reason that we have to do that is to make sure that the values are spread broadly enough across the number line to make sure that we don't get repeats. If I don't do this squaring, then in the example where there's as few as 5 things, then there start to be duplicates. For example, 5 B's scores this, or 5 1s scores the same as 4 zeros and 1 3. It's I'm sure a mathematician would be able to get you a more satisfactory answer about how that works, but I know that this one does. Unique score is the next step. Unique score. And its job is to just sort out all of the unique values from my score array. Unique index then just takes a quick match and says where in my score array does that unique score come from, and that'll be useful for looking up things later. I have a mapped array, and all that this does is takes the values in the value array and maps them onto whatever my selected values here are. That's all that does. And I've actually built in a little error catch here. It says that if there are not enough items in your map array, then instead of doing that index function and mapping appropriately, just take the base values. So for example, if I reduce the length of this array to only have 3 items, then everything updates to just using zeros and ones. It's kind of like it skips a step. Okay. Finally, my options is just the sort of smashing together of my mapped values. I've done that before. And then the output is an index pull. It takes all of the indices from the unique index column and pulls the appropriate value out of my options column. And that is my final output. That's the exact same thing that goes over here. Let's do a slightly simpler case. We'll just do 3 pick 3. And you can see that this draws all of the combinations: 3 A's, 2 A's and a B, 2 A's and a C, 1 A and 2 B's, and that's it. It does all of them, which is pretty nifty. Now, this is a little bit more computationally heavy. I thought that I would be able to generate all of the combinations up to an exceedingly large value, but it's not true. If I crank these numbers up very much higher than sort of 6 or 7, then Excel starts to throw errors about running out of memory because it is a little bit intense. I need a computer science major to make this function a little bit more efficient, but that's the gist of it. In order to get this function, this combine a show function, into your own spreadsheet, there is a link in the description below to a spreadsheet on a Google Drive that contains this. And if you copy a sheet from that into your own Excel sheet, then you will have this function available to you. If you do take this function, please make sure to like the video. It seems like a fair trade at the very least. Subscribe if you want to see more content like this, and leave a comment if you feel like there was anything missing or if you have any ideas on how to make this run more efficiently. Hope that you're having a great day. Happy excelling!